Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. We're officially in the dead period where our draft is over. I didn't really see a lot of moves. Steelers have already put that weird cap lock on Aaron Rodgers. We haven't had any news on that. The main thing is, like, with the transition to the NBA and NHL playoffs now, I was watching a little bit of the NBA. And my Celtics had like a 3-1 lead on the Sixers, and I thought, they'll put this away. And of course they didn't. And I saw Tatum wasn't going to play. And I thought, I'll catch the end of the game. Right? See if they can make it a game. Once I saw Tatum was out, I figured they didn't have a chance. But I turned it on, and the downward trajectory of just the NBA gameplay is so odd to me that, I mean, I watched a ton of NBA. My brother was a really big basketball player. So, I mean, I've seen a ton of games going back. And I know a lot of people make the argument that Jordan's like era with the more physicality was like tougher. And now they've opened it up. But they haven't really opened up the game. If I watch college basketball, and I know you're going to be hit or miss, right? Some teams are just better than others in college, and then it really takes you to hit like two strong teams. And then even then, like Michigan, Arizona, legendary, one of the best matchups of all time. Michigan comes out on a heater, and that game isn't even close. Same thing happens in the NBA. But the traveling is what gets me, because I watch Brown come down, taking like 5 Euro steps or whatever in traffic and still doing a fadeaway and clanking it, or like dribbling down, having the Sixers collapse on him and then throw it away. And it was funny to me because I saw him complaining about Embiid flopping. And the entire thing is like fake. And it's weird because as Americans, I hear a lot about how soccer and the flopping makes it like a wimpy sport my entire life. But now we have NBA has basically become soccer, and I don't know how they can fix it. Because some of the fouls, like I see the guy go up, Brown made a block. Pretty sure it's Brown. I'm singling him out because he was calling out Embiid. And there was like no reason for it. There was one. The Sixers were up like 2 or something. The Celtics were coming back. And the guy went to make a layup. And there was tons of contact. And he blocked it. And of course, no whistle, right? And I thought, all right, this is going to be wide open. He's going to come down. He does his like 5 Euro steps. I think they called traveling on one of them. And I was shocked, and he was shocked because he's probably been getting away with it all year. But then they go down. And I forget what team it was. So then someone goes up for a layup. Barely touched. Right? I don't even know if he was touched at all, to be honest. I can't remember what team. Immediate whistle. Like right after the basket went in. It was almost like they waited for the basket to go in and then you get the whistle. I said immediate whistle. But it wasn't like they were trying to do it. It was almost like, okay, that one will go for an extra, like a foul point or whatever, foul shot. And I saw people bring it up. Like, because I mean, obviously people have seen it, right? It was trending on social media, just how soft and how like foul heavy the league is. And someone was like circulating a Michael Jordan, I don't know if you saw it, stat line where he hit like three shots all game, but he had like 20 points or something because most of them were free throws. And I thought, okay, right? He's considered like one of the best guys of all game. He's probably like double covered or whatever. But some of these shots that they're calling fouls nowadays, it's not even like a foul. And it's like weird. Like they're able to travel all over the game, like all over the floor, and they're shooting. And I know they said, well, they can't even say that the shooting 3-pointers and stuff has like improved the ratings because the TV ratings are down. Like they're still down from like Jordan's time, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know what the fix is, man. But I would like there to be something. to turn on. Because like if the Celtics are in it, I'll watch. But as a fan, it's hard for me to even watch them. So there's no reason to tune in. Right? And I used to be must watch. I'd watch that. I watched like every NBA game 20 years ago. And people will say like, oh, you're just old. NBA is like for young fans or whatever. NFL is like the old sport. It's like, no, I used to watch both, guys. You can watch multiple sports. There's like no thing. That's why everyone talks about college basketball or college football losing it. No, they're still making competitive, like good games. You can watch, we've talked about this countless times. You can watch college games and see offenses that are out of the league and no one runs anymore, except in college. So you can get unique viewing. Same for basketball, right? Some teams just have gigantic dudes and they have like guys that are physical in the paint. That some teams are like really small and they play like all guards and shooting. You get more of like a mix in college just because of the different number of teams out there than you do in the NBA. NBA is becoming like the NFL where every team copies each other. So now every team's Euro stepping and flopping. Where in the NFL, like every team, like remember every team was running a Wildcat that one year? Like, oh yeah, we'll run Wildcat, right? That's the thing. So I don't know. Did you watch any of the Sixers, and what's your feeling on the NBA right now?
Well, I did watch some of the Sixers game, and at the different points that I watched, it was like I almost had to turn it off because I felt like every time that I started watching, they would just miss every single shot, and Boston would go on a tear. It was like I watched the earlier games. I felt like every time I turned around, Boston was on like a 20-0 run. So I was like, well, I'm not going to watch this. They're going to lay an egg in the playoffs again. And I was like, games that like they're bouncing back. I'll watch the misery of the last game. True to form, they're up 12, 14 points. I was like, oh, they got this in the bag. They're just going to cruise now. Milk the clock. Nope. Embiid's outside shooting threes. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Nothing infuriates me more than watching his big ass outside 3-point shooting. Like, get inside. You're 19 feet tall. You're enormous. Just play in the paint.
That's what kills me. They're looking for that. I was reading some of like the comps because Michigan has like those 7-foot guys, right? Helped them win a national championship. And like the scouting reports, like could use more practice shooting for like 3-pointers. It's like, why would you want your 7-point behemoth out there shooting 3-pointers at any point in the game? I used to get nervous watching Kevin Garnett shoot from the foul line. Like, bro, why are you shooting from out there? And I know that's like a high school shot, right? So
yeah,
it's insane. That's something that they want. And I don't know how that makes it better.
And I think, like, even from the foul line, like, you should, as a pro player, and I guess Shaquille O'Neal is the outlier to it, but it's like you should consistently make shots from there. So it's like from there to the post, like that's a nice triangle-sized area to like have that be your zone. Work up where you can do some pick and roll stuff, but also be down in the post, like playing some of that in and out, like. That's a little bit more logical and makes sense. Like, come on, what are we doing?
And that's the one thing that drives me nuts because they're talking about how that opens the game. But if you get the big guys out shooting threes, then all you have is lanes for people to drive in, do 5 Euro steps, like I said, flop around, and you don't have any semblance of offense. It's almost like everything's being pick and roll or ISO like it used to be. And so then you get the playoffs where LeBron can do it and he can still take over no matter how old he is. And he's leading the Lakers in. And so some teams now, they're like trying to emulate that. But you need to have a superstar. And a lot of the superstars that could take over games are getting older. And now you have like guys that try to do it and just can't. Like the Knicks, like they have Brunson. He's just like going crazy. And then they're so hot and cold because of it. He's not LeBron's size. Like LeBron's such an outlier that I don't know if you're ever going to see a player like that ever again. So, I mean, even watching Yaks, like he came to Michigan last year as like the college LeBron. And I know he took over games and was like awesome, but he still didn't take over as much as like what LeBron would have done in college. Like it's very easy for me to assume that if LeBron had played in college, he probably would have been able to lead Ohio State to a national championship. As sad as that would have been. Right? Even as like a younger kid. Just because of his size and being able to take shots and drive. I think a lot of bigger guys just can't drive. Like Embiid, he can take a 3-pointer, but he's not able to create off that and like actually drive himself. And that's what I think it makes the game kind of like there's no flow anymore because they have these big guys out shooting threes. They're not looking to drive at all. So you never know how it's going to go. But what about the NHL? Have you been watching any NHL playoffs?
I watched a little bit, and then, exactly with the doom and gloom that I thought the Sixers were bringing, I saw the Pens loss. I was like, well, there goes hockey season now.
And it was another rarity where Philly got the win over Pittsburgh, right? But now Philly's playing the Canes, and the Canes down here are good. And I wonder...
I almost feel like with Philly, Pittsburgh just has such a hard time playing them because Philly plays such a more physical style of hockey. They're like the playoffs and they're like, we're just going to fight you. And Pittsburgh's like, all right, well, we'll just take an ass whipping.
And that's where some of the teams, like Philly and the more physical teams, you don't really see them make a run. Like they can get a couple rounds in and then that's it.
Yeah.
Where Pittsburgh, if they can get through the physical rounds, then they could have made a run at the Cup. That's why I want to see what happens with the Hurricanes down here because they've been close. Seems like they have one of the best teams every year. And the coach has been awesome while he's here, but they win a couple rounds and then it seems like they just forget how to show up. So, I don't know. But outside of that, there's like no sports on right now other than like you have the UFL. And I was hoping that they would start to take over some of that TV viewing, but they haven't. I mean, I guess we have the Kentucky Derby. Did you bet on the Derby?
Negative.
I didn't either. I know it was like the big thing that everybody was doing, but I just don't know if gambling, it's hard because they say like that's increasing gambling. And then you have like the college and all the predictive like models and things like the NFL draft where they say that they want to stop people from gambling. So I don't know what the regulations are supposed to be. Right? Horses are more of like a crapshoot. You don't know.
Right.
So like the guy that won was like, he was down the list. I think he was like maybe like 8th from the bottom maybe. Because I know like if people, they'll bet like a bunch of the long shots. Like if you bet $100 on each long shot, but then how far do you go up the list? Right? To get like a big payout. And then you watch because if one of the favorites win, then you take a bath. Right? You lose all your money. So you got to kind of balance it out. You can't bet $100 like on every horse and make it work. It's kind of like the strategy I said about people betting only underdogs in the college basketball tournament and how lately that strategy the past couple of years hasn't worked at all. But every other year prior to like the realignment stuff and the NIL, it would work where you would come out ahead as long as you bet in the like the first 2 rounds if you bet on underdogs in every game because at least 1 or 2 underdogs was making it to like the Elite 8, you'd come out ahead. So, and you would win kind of bigger money depending if it was like a year where Butler and Gonzaga and them are going all the way, right? Or like Loyola Chicago making the Final Four. Like if you keep it rocking, you can win some pretty good money. And that might only be a fluke, right? It might not be really an NIL type thing. They're trying to expand the college basketball tournament. I think we mentioned it last week. That's going to be horrible. Because I already hate filling out the bracket. You're telling me I have to have more teams on the bracket or on the unknown line? Because if they put 12 games on like Monday or Tuesday when everyone is doing their bracket, it's going to be that winner of pick. Like, oh, you're going to pick the winner of, and then have it see how far it goes from there. And I don't like that. Like, did you fill out a bracket this year?
Yeah.
Who did you have going all the way? Michigan?
Negative. I had Arizona.
Ah, I bet that was a horrible game when Michigan whooped them. You're like Charles Barkley, huh?
I'm just accustomed to Michigan just laying an egg.
Yeah, but that was before we had Yaks, bro. We had the LeBron of college basketball.
You could just pay for everyone.
And the crazy thing is I saw Michigan's recruiting class coming in, and like our top recruit, they after the re-rank, he's like number 3. He's like the top, like number 3 overall. I don't even know if we've ever had a recruit that high.
I will give boosters of Michigan credit, because in an era where you could literally get paid to go anywhere, people are like, yeah, I want to freeze my ass off in Ann Arbor. Like, I could go south where I can feel my fingers and toes in the winter. And they're like, nope, I want to go to the armpit of America, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah, but you can get a good education there, bro. A good education. And like I said before, I think the Big Ten should take out advertising or marketing materials on how a lot of pro teams are in the North. And I think most of them are in the North. So if you play in the Big Ten, traveling is going to get you the most prepared in the Big Ten compared to like the SEC, where you're traveling in the South only, and you're only going to have 1 or 2 options in the South to even have a professional career, unless you just play in the minors or something. But who knows? Did you see that thing about Chicago, the city, where they've been talking about how like they didn't want to bid for FIFA and some of these other big events like the NFL draft, where I was talking to some people about the Pittsburgh, right? I knew some people that went to the draft, right? And Pittsburgh was billed as like, you're going to have a ton of like influx of people coming to you, like your hotels and eating out and all of this stuff. And from what I've heard firsthand is the businesses down there did not make out, because the way the NFL did it, and I mean, we talked about this before, they have it like they have it set off, right? So like they have like the fence go around, so you can't go outside. You have to check in and do the draft. And it's 3 days and it ends. So like who's going in? It's not like a game where the game's like 3 hours, right? And you can do whatever. So you fly in Thursday, go to the event, it's over, you go back and go to bed. You have Friday maybe to do some stuff, but the event's all day Saturday. So people aren't going to the event and then going out and eating and spending money in the city. They're staying inside the event where you have vendors. I mean, everyone's been to like a concert event or like whatever, right? Where they're like, some people are sampling foods and doing like other drinks, and they're like having you, oh, sign up for our mailing list here and try our energy drink. Okay, cool, buddy. And like you're doing all that stuff, and you're inside buying your beers or whatever, because then you can like drink inside the venue. It's not really stimulating the economy. And I've heard some doom stories about the World Cup coming in, and like Chicago was like, we don't want any part of it. And I've seen like, I forget what city it was, but they were like 10 million in the hole already for World Cup, I think, because of projects and not having like the reimbursement and stuff, and not even getting paid for some of the stuff that they've promised they have to provide. Because like FIFA's not providing cops and things. It's like the NFL is probably the same. They give security at their event, but what about the people that are leaving that are drunk? Right? The city is going to be in charge of all that stuff. So I don't know what some of these things are going to have happen, but some of the bigger cities, man, I think that's where you're going to start seeing weird cities pop up that normally get no people. Because I've seen this with concerts where a big city says no, like, hey, we're not going to host this big concert anymore because of the logistics and like we're losing money and it trashes like the facilities. They go to like a smaller city that doesn't have as many hotels and things, and then they get hammered. And then you're at an event that's understaffed and it's horrible. Like I've been at a couple where I've been like stuck, and you don't want that. So I wonder what other cities are going to bid for sort of like the NFL type things. Like, is the draft really going to be a thing that people travel for? It's in DC next year. Because I thought that would be like a good one to go to, since I couldn't make the Pittsburgh one this year because family stuff. The DC one, well, could be one where you could take the family to it. Because like I said, if you go up Thursday and Friday, like if you would make the trip maybe Wednesday, then you could do some of like the museums and things like the actual things people see in DC during the day. And then any dad could like, all right, ditch the kids then, and then they go out, right? Have the wives take the kids to the hotel and hang out at like the pool and then go to bed. And you're at the draft. You do it Friday, and then Saturday they can do whatever, like go to the zoo or something, and then you're down at the draft all day Saturday, if you can even last that long, depending on the weather, right? Pittsburgh weather was kind of cold, I think.
Pittsburgh weather is always cold.
Nah, sometimes it's hot. I mean, it's been colder now lately, so I don't know. I think with the live sports and trying to get people to attend some of these events, it's going to be tough. Like even like looking at the tickets for the World Cup has been crazy because you can get them on the secondary market for cheap, but they're making like all their other people bid in, and you don't know, right? Some guy thinks his team's going to make it. They don't make it. Like the cuts happened. Some of the bigger teams like didn't make it. Like Poland got eliminated. So if any of their fans had got tickets just in case they made it, then they have to sell them on the secondary market. And if you have two countries that don't really have a lot of traveling fans, you're probably losing money on that. It happens in the college basketball tournament, right? Your team's in the Final Four. You're buying tickets for both days. Your team gets eliminated. That national championship ticket is always cheaper. Always. I don't know. I haven't paid that much attention to the expanded playoff because Michigan won the championship right before the playoff expanded. But I wonder if you're going to see some more of the same stuff because fans, can they afford to pay 2 or 3 games? That's why the NFL having them at the home game, at the home stadium works. Have it at the home stadium, make money, let season ticket holders have all that stuff, and then go from there. But if you start cycling in traveling neutral site games, I think there's going to be a bubble that's just going to pop. Because like the NCAA, they make most of their money on the college basketball tournament. That's most of their revenue. That's why they want to expand it. They're pretending like they want these other mid teams in there, but the mid teams have the biggest fans, right? They're not going to have the smaller conferences in. No, they want like a sub 500 like Auburn team or something in there because they know their fans will tune in at least. And so they can sell those Monday, Tuesday games. I wouldn't even be surprised if eventually the other teams get an extra week off. And will that, like the college football one, is that going to then provide teams coming out and having bigger upsets then? Because they're going to be a little bit not as fresh. But who knows? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, wait, I forgot the other thing that I had on the last thing I have today, because it might not even be a long show, is the payouts came out talking about college sports stuff. The Big Ten made a ton more money than the SEC. There's no surprise. You can read as much propaganda as you want from ESPN. They're partners with the SEC, talking about how their money and blah, 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 and how they're the strongest conference. It's not like something that you can just ignore. The Big Ten has had more success recently. The SEC, even whenever the Big Ten and the SEC were semi close in terms of TV payouts, and the SEC had like the recruiting advantage and things of like location, like you brought up earlier. Yeah, they might have been able to kind of push that. But now you have the Big Ten teams winning national championships. They are on TV the most. And that's what I think hurts the SEC. Because right now, the SEC only has maybe 1-2 national games a year, or a weekend, I mean, now. Because with the ABC, they only have one network. ABC usually shows at least one ACC game on national TV, if I'm not mistaken. Right? You would know more. But like I know like Florida State, Miami, if that's on, that's going to take one ABC slot usually. So typically they only have 3 games on ABC. You have the noon, the 3:30, and the 7:30. If the ACC takes 1 or heck 2 of those games, all the SEC games are on ESPN. And as much as people want to pretend like everybody has ESPN, they don't. That's why the ratings are like cut in half for games that are on ESPN versus games that are on ABC. It's why they don't put Alabama on ESPN. Put them on ABC so that most fans watch. But you have your league, the moneymakers behind this paywall. And that's why for all the people laughing about the ACC taking that CW deal, because I joke about it too, that's at least free over the air. I don't know what the ratings have been on that network because they're probably an afterthought. I'm sure ACC gives ESPN the pick of their best games, and you're going to get stuck with like a Virginia Tech versus Virginia or something on there. But you never know. With enough coaches too, ACC's been pulling their weight. You get Mac Brown in there, you get James Franklin in there, you start to bring in some of these bigger coaches. If Cristobal can keep Miami rolling, that's also hurting the SEC. So the Big Ten making a ton of money and then splitting it now with the college. I think they said that the college basketball tournament and the football tournament, if your team goes farther, you get a higher payout. So I think Ohio State, Indiana, and Penn State last year, had the higher payouts. Those would be the ones that I don't know if we're going to see that much of like an advantage because Ohio State and then Penn State, where they were in debt anyway. That's why they were begging for that private equity deal. But who knows? You get an expanded, like an even more expanded playoff, and the Big Ten starts going further and further. You're going to dilute the money from the SEC even further. Because the SEC hasn't been getting the payouts in the playoffs because they haven't been winning the championships. And their base TV contract isn't as good. So I would be shocked if they are able to even keep it close. Because ESPN's been having a tough time selling ads on ESPN, the network. I don't know how they're making money. Really, I really don't know how the NBA, because that contract also hurts the SEC because that money's going in to the NBA only, where they cut and they only have like 1 or 2 MLB games, which is frustrating because I saw the Braves have this thing called Braves Vision. Did you see that? Where it's kind of like MLB TV, but because that one network, Bally Sports or Bally TV, is that the one that went under? So yeah. All these teams like Detroit, I think Braves, and a bunch of other ones, they didn't have a TV partner. So they come up with their own network. And I've seen people rave about it. And it's like no blackouts. But no, if it's a national game, it's still not on there. And you're still subject to the weird MLB map where if I'm in North Carolina and they decide that whatever reason I'm going to get the DC national game, I might not get the Braves game because they still do the split map. College football fans, they'll know what I'm talking about, where like you're like, okay, this game's on national TV, and it's like, nope, you're stuck with the local game. You got Pitt instead, buddy. Right? You don't get to watch USC play like Nebraska or something. You got Pitt versus Boston College on your local, because that's the local one bought it out, right? Because they're the team that's closer to you. And so the Braves have been doing that. To me, I just don't get it. MLB controls everything. Yeah, they want the national partners to pay more, But I would think having that direct, we've seen it happen with Netflix, where if Netflix can have it, make it work. If MLB and some of these networks would get their heads out of their asses, they could just go ahead and have a network that people could pay for and see all the games. See all the games. Because I brought that up because the NFL one too. They were holding, was it Comcast hostage last week? I think it was last week. Where there's a holdout now because ESPN bought NFL Network and they're trying to double the price of it for no reason because they're losing money. And that's the whole reason why I brought this up. Because ESPN's losing so much money, they're trying to get the cable partners to double their fees, and they're already the highest in the industry. So that tells me ESPN's streaming package isn't doing well. Because again, if you're right now, why are you paying for ESPN? What is on TV? I mean, some of the NBA games are on NBC. The Celtics Sixers were on NBC the other day, right? So why are you paying for ESPN? You can't even watch your own team. I think the entire Sixers Celtics series was on NBC maybe. And I'm guessing they split it up. Like they pick probably like college, like they do for Big Ten, where it's like, okay, Fox is most likely going to have Ohio State or Michigan. So I know where I'm going to be. But if you're another team that's kind of like a secondary pick, like Nebraska, you could be all over the board. And you don't know. So why pay for one network that's like $30 a month for streaming and then you not have your team on there? I'm sure most people are just canceling and then renewing. Because I saw some of the renewal things they're in right now. Like you can get Big Ten Plus for $20 for the year. If you use a promo right now that's floating around, if you search for it online, it'll pop up. I can't remember what it is to give it away on the show. But I know NBC Peacock had the same thing because we talked about it a couple years ago, where every summer they have the deal where you get it for super cheap, like $20 for the year, like $40 for the year or something. And so if you have a year where the Olympics are in it, or there's stuff that you actually really want to watch, that's not bad for the year. It's like $1 a month or something. You just got to remember to cancel before they try to charge you the full price. So I know I was all over the board today. That's off season for you. You want to weigh in on anything?
There was one thing that stood out to me. They were talking about Mendoza working out during Raiders camp and saying that they were making a big deal about him taking reps from under center. And I just think, why is that even a thing anymore? Like, I know a lot of colleges are predominantly shotgun based, but it's like, why are they making that out to be like such a problematic thing to take snaps?
Well, for him, isn't he like 6'5"? I would think it would be more of an issue for like Pavia or someone that can't really see over the line. And that's a reason why they could like, oh, he's not gonna, like, hasn't taken snaps from under center. He's short. He's not gonna be able to see over the line. That's a mark against him. But I'm pretty sure Mendoza's like 6 foot something. Like he's a bigger guy.
Like that's such an antiquated thing, because in the 90s, early 2000s, it was like everybody was under center because they were running pro style or wing T style offenses. It was like everyone was under center. It was only a handful of programs that were starting to get into that raid style where it was shotgun, and as it's developed more and more, people are getting into more gun-based stuff. I feel like you're looking at it now, like there's a lot more programs that are doing like exclusive shotgun. And it's like, I don't mind that, but well, let's not act like taking snaps from under center is like doing brain surgery.
Well, see, the thing is here too, even if he's not comfortable 100%, they could just run pistol. Because realistically, the only reason you'd be under center is to give yourself a little bit better of an advantage running the ball, depending on your personnel too. Which, was he even used to running in the eye anyway?
Well, they tried to tweak how his style of like lining up in the backfield. They wanted him to be more upright, and then he wasn't doing really well with it. And they're like, you know what? Just go back to doing whatever the hell you want. Like, whatever worked for you in college, just do that.
And that's where I think a lot of the teams, you have to fit it to your personnel. That's why the coach should be involved and not on a retreat, taking care of relationships. Am I right? So I see the under center thing, because they brought that up with JJ when he was getting drafted about how he had tons of experience there, but it doesn't mean he's going to be a good quarterback. It also doesn't mean he's not going to get injured. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
It's going to be tougher reading the ball or reading the defense, right? Especially if you're doing fake handoffs, because you can't have your head in both locations. So you're going to have your back, and you're going to have to trust and kind of get a better feel for the game. And I think that's why a lot of colleges do under center stuff, because it's easier for them to process what's going on and kind of cheat a little bit on reads, because you can see pre-snap a little bit better if people are moving, or if they move as soon as the ball snapped, if your head's up, compared to if immediately they're doing like a spy or some type of other delayed blitz or something, if your back's to them.
Are you going to continue?
But I don't know if that's a big deal anyway. Is there anything else you saw you want to bring up?
No, that was the only real outside of our normal stuff I saw.
Yeah, they started to bring up the draft mocks. They're talking about the NFL schedule release and how it could be delayed. So we'll have to see if we have that hard-hitting piece of information. I did want to get a shout out because apparently our show is being one of the top media. We're like one of the only podcasts that talk about like TV ratings and stuff heavily. So we've been ranking high on that, getting a lot of viewers. So thanks guys for coming in. Hopefully our breakdowns are helping out. But it's a little bit easier to read, especially college. You know, the teams with NIL, they're talking about cutting the TV stuff into the player payments. Those teams are going to be better, just in terms of depth. Doesn't mean they're going to win, especially basketball, because you can have a team of just a well-rounded group of guys we see with like college hockey and stuff that are veterans. They could win it all. That's why teams like Duke have been struggling, even though they've had like the number 1 recruiting class or number 2 recruiting class for like years. They don't win it every time. They had a great chance this year and they still couldn't win it. Although I think that one guy played with a broken face, didn't he? One of the Boozers bros.
I think.
So that could have been the thing that swung UConn in there. And who knows what would have been different. Another rematch with Michigan, no injured faces. Michigan's guy's injured. Yax is injured. And then Michigan had already lost another guy that were both played when Duke beat him the first time. I mean, it could have a whole different year. But if there's anything else you see out there you want us to talk about, especially in the off season, let us know. Again, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.